Today we have the pleasure of hosting Keith Young, SeaTec's Senior IT Technician. Today Keith will discuss exactly how SeaTec optimizes its help desk operations with the help of IssueTrack software. IssueTrack is best known for stellar customer support. SeaTec is a consultancy for aerospace, transportation, and defense. If you've ever wondered who checks the engines for your flight before you take off for your destination, SeaTec is the one. I'm Liz Cook, digital creator at IssueTrack. Let's get started.
And for the sake of the audience that will eventually watch this, maybe give a little brief introduction as to who you are, what SeaTec's about, a little profile blurb.
I'm Keith Young, and I'm the senior technician for SeaTec. You fly a plane, you never realize, who looks at all the cabin stuff, who looks at the seats, who develops the Wi-Fi stuff, and our company basically covers a lot of that. Fortunately enough, I'm in a position where I'm still learning, I'm still growing myself to better the company and better myself. So it gets tiring, but I've been with the company 4 years, but I've gotten to know people because of the same strategy IssueTrack is with me. As soon as you start talking to your customer, getting to know that customer, it makes things a whole lot easier.
Oh, I love hearing that it makes your job, if not more enjoyable, at least a bit easier. That's kind of the aim.
Tell you, when I first started with SeaTec 4 years ago, my nightmare was gathering the asset information for this company. And I couldn't depend on the product IT Glue, which was what they were using. I mean, the record keeping was horrible. And once I actually finally got the data out, it wasn't usable. A lot of times when I first started, everything was like, quick, quick, quick. Their issues were like, I need it yesterday. There's so many moving parts. When we started using IssueTrack, I mean, I loved it very, very start. We had an internal help desk where I used to come from, and it was very plain. I mean, literally just plain. No flexibility whatsoever. The thing I like about IssueTrack is I do know if I have a problem, it'll be solved.
One of the things I was curious about, but you've probably touched on a bit, is how has IssueTrack grown with you? I'm aware SeaTec has like 5 different IssueTrack sites for different things.
And we have other divisions. We have HR. The other one is Solution Desk. We actually have one for our security compliance site right now. It's very pristine because it has to deal with security. If we have people having phishing emails and so forth, we submit a ticket through the compliance site, and we have to evaluate everything.
Since there's so much to oversee and so many different aspects and people. As a senior technician, like what does that day-to-day look like?
The big two components, I mean, we have ticketing systems here, and then we have our asset management. That's all I live in all day. 98% of my day is in IssueTrack.
Well, thank goodness you like us.
Yeah.
Can you talk about in what ways having a help desk software system kind of makes it easier to serve customers?
We're testing for the customer to make sure that they're on board with our customer service response time. And so basically I have a schedule that goes out the first day of every month. It just sends out an email ticket, and it tells what's in the email body. And all I do is the process of the task flows that I've got embedded in that, and then it sends the response out to the customer. I mean, they love it, and that's something that I haven't really seen in other help desk modules, even with the company that was handling SeaTec before. It was just a ticketing system. You didn't have these ways of adding, timers in your ticket other than, work timers. But say, for instance, you have a ticket, right? And I actually have 3 of them right now that I haven't got a response in a week. So basically, I set a scheduled time in the ticket to remind me every 2 weeks to send an email out to that person saying, hey, what's the status? Are you needing your asset, kind of thing? So, that's the flexibility that I like about the issue track module.
I know that you have used the knowledge base to train. I think you're aware one of the last updates we had was being able to track changes in a knowledge base article.
That's a great module you guys actually have, is the knowledge base. Because I mean, like I said, for a one-man shop, it's hard to focus with everybody. That's my give back to the people, because a lot of them also said to me, we know how busy you are. Do you have a tech doc or something? Some people have better needs than others. Some people like learning too. So I mean, it helps both worlds.
SeaTec's been able to use issue track in different departments. What was it about the software that resonated with those departments?
We have a solution desk, which is basically customer facing.
Mm.
We manage 4 airlines through there, but and the guys actually, I mean, they use it just as a ticketing system kind of thing, but you can actually set triggers. They actually use the time-based mechanism that's in issue track, because it's all software bug related. So if someone reports, a developer reports a bug, it's submitted in there. I have it set up so if someone does not respond or pick up the ticket, I get a notification.
And were you the one to bring on issue track? How did you find us?
Once I started getting into it and started talking to your guys, I realized how powerful this was. Um, a lot of it was a learning experience, because I had to take data from one source to another, and that's where it helped me understand what issue track was about. The company that I replaced, they were using another type of system that had a whole lot of modules, so to speak, asset management, but it was very tedious on how to find a ticket in their system compared to how issue track is. The simplicity behind it, instead of having to search through this, search through that, trying to find out everything's in there. That I've got everything out of issue track that I need. There are a lot of modules that we haven't even tapped into.
I remember that from last time. It took you a moment before realizing that you could attach an asset to a ticket.
Yeah, I actually did this morning. I was like, one of the guys, he must like have 50 tickets out there. And he's like, I hate to complain, but I think my battery's dead in my laptop. So I clicked the asset in the ticket to find out what I actually deployed to him. And I was like, man, this is easy.
I guess we can dive into a little bit about Aerosoft, the newly acquired company. Aerosoft's also going to use SeaTec's IHD internal help desk. What did you have to consider when choosing to use issue track for Aerosoft?
But it's nice to be able to collaborate with other teammates. The guy who actually oversees that company, he and I actually have a lot of commonality. ASI has used issue track for probably the last going on 3 weeks now, and Francisco's raving about it. How easy it is. He was automatically sold. For me, I will tell you, that was the gift that I was looking for. He was just amazed at how descriptive it gets, from the machine model, the manufacturer of the model, down to the BIOS, down to the firmwares, the software installed, the software date it was installed, and what version number it is. It was easy to initiate the scan and then have it post into issue track. I said, man, what don't you guys have? Yeah, I was hoping that the customer facing side of ASI would have gone issue track, but we have developers that are part of this whole migration, and our developers are all Jira based, and there are Jira based help desk systems out there. Do I want to touch them? No, not at all. You can have them.
To use Jira, you would need more like developer knowledge. It's less user friendly, or I'm curious.
From my understanding and from what I've seen, it's all Java based.
Mm.
But even when I was with Infor Global Solutions beforehand, we were using a help desk ticketing system that someone actually developed in house, and it was all Jira based. It was the most horrible thing ever. I'd rather just submit everything in email. I get the ticket. I started writing the email out and not even worry about entering notes in the ticket. It was just like the worst thing ever. And then half the time, it was login issues, and I mean, I don't know. I just
What an upgrade from email.
yeah. But that's the thing that I think customer service venues need to understand. You can't have a communication with somebody with an issue over email. I
No.
mean, that's how Jamf operates. I mean, I didn't even bother trying to call, but when I put in an email, they're like sending me, "Did you try this?" And they sent me their reference doc, and I would respond back and said, "I hate to tell you, this reference doc you sent me is 2 years old. Do you have anything current?" I mean, literally.
And then that email thread went back and forth for the next 4 weeks, I'm sure.
Yeah, it did. And it got to a point where I had to pick up my laptop and just slam it on my desk.
Oh,
I mean,
and considering shopping for help desk software, you had mentioned in our previous conversation how 4 things really, really mattered. At least I boiled it down to these 4 things: the easy data imports, which you just spoke about a bit, complexity or the lack of complexity when learning how to use it, cost to price ratio, and a good support line.
for me, immediate response. I mean, you guys are top notch. I mean, anytime I send an email out, I 15 minutes, and I'll know I'll get an email. I call, I don't get like an automated system. So to me, those two are vital for me because I'm a one-man show, so my time is very limited, and I can't speak volumes about it. I would suggest you guys think highly on how to promote this and give a seminar to all these companies or all these service bureaus out there and have their people trained. Literally. I mean, that's going to be my topmost suggestion for this year. The people I talk to that I just cannot stand when it comes to customer service, I said, you guys need to look up this company. Literally, they make you feel so warm, yeah, and that's something very rare that I tend to discover with companies these days is I cannot stand it. I would burn 6 hours of nonsense time to figure out an issue than to call up somebody on the phone, where I would in a heartbeat call your guys just to talk to them. Your time is as value as the work you're doing for a customer. But the end result is what you put in, people are going to see whether or not you believe it or not. To me, that right there puts value on the table. As a matter of fact, I was on Facebook the other day, and one of my friends was actually complaining about AT&T about customer service. And I was like, oh, don't even get me started. One of my vendors that I always call is Adobe. I mean, look how big of a company they are. And yet, I hate calling them. I'd rather expense all my time and work after hours to figure out a solution than to call their help desk. And I have emailed them their enterprise support, and it would take a week before I got a response. Unless you really have someone there that really cares about their customers, you can't find it these days. I mean, you don't. I mean, back in the 80s when I worked Marriott, that's all they stressed was quality. Making sure the customer who stayed at your hotel got the best customer service possible because they're the ones investing in our company. If you are looking for something that doesn't give you value, why look at it? I mean, you're taking time away from your people. You're taking time away from customers if they're having issues. The best price for service, and it's hard to find that. But if you do find it, I wouldn't mind spending the money for it, to be honest with you, because I mean it's time out of my. I mean it takes time out of my day to figure out the problems. And yet, if I can find someone who knows their product, and that's the other thing, you guys know your product. When I came back from Canada, I wrote a post about my time there, about relationships and building a new family. And I'll tell you, I had so many comments on LinkedIn just from the SeaTec people. And that's the thing I've learned just from this company and from your guys. I mean, I love talking to them as much as I love calling those guys, but I know we all have things to do, but it's just it's such a pleasant experience to know that I can call and my hands aren't shaking. If you don't like the job, if you don't like what you're doing, that's what the phrase, find something that you'll love, because if you love the job, the work is nothing.